LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Andrew Castle.
You're with LBC. It's a Saturday morning. It's the 14th of October. First, though, this is the story we're going to talk about this hour. Now, a couple of days ago, court ruled that an Islamic faith school's policy of segregating boys and girls is unlawful sex discrimination. Was that the right decision? What was your first reaction when you heard that? My first reaction was great. But I don't quite know why that it was great, because I've never been into an Islamic school. I don't know how many Islamic schools there are in the United Kingdom. I don't know what their core ethos and their values is. I don't know what they're teaching. When you segregate boys and girls in those schools, are you teaching the boys one thing and the girls another? And what does it mean when we talk about segregation in an Islamic school? What does that actually mean? Is that total segregation at all times? I think we should find out more about this, because my first thing is, oh, hooray! But then why? I mean, that, you know, and then I said, well, Andrew, this is my internal voice. Andrew, you know, you're bigoted if you think that straight away. But this has been the result of a court action. The case was heard at the Court of Appeal. OFSTED challenged a High Court ruling clearing the Al-Hijrah school in Birmingham of discrimination. OFSTED's lawyers argued the segregation left girls unprepared for life in modern Britain. Appeal judges ruled the school was discriminating against its pupils contrary to the Equality Act. The court did not accept the argument the school's policy had disadvantaged girls more than boys. 0345 6060 973. If you have a view on this. Segregation not allowed now in Islamic schools? Aisha Ali-Khan is with us, a human rights activist and a Women United campaigner. Abdullah al Andalusi is with us as well, co-founder of the Muslim Debate Initiative. And a very good morning to both as we discuss this on LBC. Aisha, if I could turn to you first, and I wonder if you could characterise the nature of these type of schools for the benefit of our listeners. Good morning.
Morning, of course. So the school in question, Al-Hijrah in Birmingham, was a voluntary aided school, which means that it gets about 90% of its funding from the state, and about 10% is given through donations or paid by a foundation that has set the school up. Now, these types of schools were originally set up to promote the Christian faith and to kind of teach children in a very Christian ethos kind of setting. A lot of the schools that are mixed voluntary aided schools are Islamic schools or Muslim schools, where the majority of the pupils who attend are Muslims. There's a handful of Orthodox Jewish schools and a handful of Christian schools as well. Now, this ruling is going to have an impact on all of those schools, because it's going to kind of make, I mean, some of these OFSTED inspections have already taken place, and gender segregation was not something that was actually looked at properly. Now, this ruling is going to change all this. In fact, yesterday there was an article that said the OFSTED inspectors would now go back and look at all their previous inspections and see if they were going to have to go out and do new ones. So this is quite a big thing, actually, for everybody, all the schools involved. But going back to your original question about these types of schools, now I'm a secondary school teacher, and I have taught actually the school in the north of England. It was girls-only school. It was a state-funded school. With the majority of the children who attended, I would say about 65 to 70% were from a Muslim background. And it was a real eye-opener that 1 year I was there, because I just saw that these girls who were basically dropped off in the morning, picked up, had virtually no contact with any other sort of a member of the opposite sex in any other capacity. And they were, for me, they were being put at a great disadvantage, because by the time they leave school, they will not be able to cope with being in an environment with men, with boys. And it really alarmed me that a lot of the parents, I mean, there were parents that were from Oldham, from Manchester, from Bradford. These parents were willing to travel in the morning to to drop their girls off, thinking that this school is a better school. Their daughters are going to be protected, and they're going to be safe from being in a mixed environment. And that wasn't the case at all.
Aisha, thank you very much indeed for the moment. I think what I'm trying to get at here is there something different between a single-sex Christian school? Plenty of people send their kids to single-sex boys or boys only or girls only. What is the difference about a Muslim school or an Islamic school? Abdullah al Andalusi with a view on that. Good morning to you.
Good morning. So basically, the issue at hand is that it was described in a lot of the media as discrimination, and this was a kind of denial of equality between the sexes. However, the court judgment actually heard different, and as you mentioned, it was determined that there was no women were not more disadvantaged, or girls were not more disadvantaged than boys at the school. It was explained as separate but equal, and the argument was that while both the boys and the girls at the school were both under the same exact regime, they were only denied the ability to socialize with the opposite sex. Now, that was really the issue that the court at hand. The court actually rejected the argument by OFSTED that there was a particular detriment to girls, which was argued by the lead barrister.
Although, Abdullah, if everybody is suffering a great detriment and getting a pretty rubbish education, that really is a race to the bottom, isn't it? Because in 2016, OFSTED ruled that the school was inadequate and it was put on special measures, saying its policy of separating the sexes was discrimination under the 2010 Equality Act. So back in 2016, just last year, it was described as inadequate.
Well, actually, to counterpoint that, firstly, we have single-sex schools which are not determined to be detrimental to their children, and in single-sex schools, children are not socializing with members of
but in this particular one,
same age group,
the school was inadequate.
But that might be the case for that particular group, but it's not related to the segregation. For example, we see that single-sex schools generally perform better in both GCSE level and A levels than mixed schools. And we see this across the board. For example, the average attainment of 2 A's and a B is 17.7% on mixed schools, whereas the average for all boys schools is 37.7% and 41.2% for girls. And we also see a vast difference as well, where in pupils attaining 5 good GCSE grades, it's 55% for mixed schools, but 75%.
You know what? I'm sure we can talk about that. What I'm trying to get at here is there something about the fact that these schools are Islamic that is a problem? Are Islamic schools a problem?
Basically, the judgment found no issue with the teaching or the specific teaching at these schools. However,
apart from it was inadequate.
Well, a lot of the inadequacy was due to the fact that they determined that there was segregation at these mixed schools, which was one of the main factors, which they put that school in that rating. But more importantly, before 2016, for 6 years since the Equality Act, Ofsted hasn't raised this contention against that school or no other school. So it's interesting that why is it that the first school that this ever comes up about is a school in Birmingham, and Ofsted is bringing this charge. And of course, only after this charge has been levelled, the court said, well, we're going to rule in this way, and you have to ensure, Ofsted, that you apply it to every other school, every other religion equally.
Okay. All right. Abdullah al Andalusi, co-founder of the Muslim Debate Initiative. Thank you. Last word to you, Aisha Ali-Khan. Is this something to do with this school being an Islamic school, or is this entirely down to gender equality or inequality? What is the nub of this debate for you? Do you believe in Islamic schools?
Well, actually, no, I don't. I don't believe in any kind of segregation of any kind. So I'm against faith schools, and I'm against gender segregation as well, completely. But going back to what you've just, the speaker said, the school wasn't just targeted because of this segregation. Ofsted found that the segregation was extremely unfair because the girls and boys were not allowed to interact whatsoever after the age of 9. They had to use separate corridors, separate classrooms, separate everything. And
why would that be the case?
On the same site. So they had the same building, and then they had separate entrances and separate everything, and even school trips and after-school clubs and everything. And then also, and this is something that isn't really being discussed, but it should be discussed, they found literature in the school library that was very worrying. I mean, things like advocating marital rape, admonishing your wife through beatings and so on. Now, this kind of literature is hugely detrimental in its own right. Not obviously it's found in the school and became part of this investigation. But you've got to understand that if you're teaching our children, and I've got a 14-year-old, he's upstairs, very grumpy, he's a teenager, and children need to be taught in an inclusive environment that this is what's acceptable, this isn't what is acceptable. Now, if you're a young boy, you're going to school and you're seeing girls and they're going into a different part of the school and there's no interaction whatsoever, and then you go to a library and you've got literature like this, and this is, by the way, from a small selection of books that were chosen to be examined by the inspectors. So not every single book on all the shelves would have been looked at because there's simply not enough time. Now, if you've got literature like this, and you've got boys who are seeing that girls are being kept away from us, you're going to have a different kind of mentality towards the opposite sex, and vice versa for the girls as well.
I understand that. Aisha, we have to leave it there. Aisha Ali-Khan, human rights activist and Women United campaigner. Was this the right decision then, court ruling that an Islamic faith school's policy of segregating boys as and girls is unlawful sex discrimination? Do you agree with that? Do you actually believe in faith schools? Do you believe in single-sex schools? Because I don't on pretty much all of the above. It's just gone 8:15. I'll take you through the front pages and more this hour. But that is our subject for debate, 03456060973. You're with LBC.